We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Our guest is Tim Takacs, elder law attorney. You can take your phone calls if you'd like, 737-7587. Taking several this morning. You know, we have Bob who waited through the break. Let's see Bob. Bob sometimes bounces around, but maybe we'll get an important point that we can answer for him.
Okay,
Bob, good morning.
Good morning. Like you were saying earlier, Nick, get your parents a phone that they can listen to, answering machine.
Ah, that's a good idea.
Another thing would be, I had trouble with my parents, they're past, bless their hearts, but they would answer the door when they shouldn't.
Well, that's the problem. Yeah, you know, thank you, Bob.
Right. Yeah.
Well, not answering the door, go door-to-door folks that are scam artists. Screening your calls is a good idea, but here's the rub. My folks can't figure out an answering machine.
Right.
Anything technology-wise, and I hear what you're saying, Bob. That was a good suggestion. I'm telling you, I mean, sending an email now is tricky. Now, the computer, my dad's on it, but anything technical these days is beyond most seniors. Am I wrong about that?
No, I mean, if you're not used to it, you not grow up with it,
and you're not ready to learn something really new, and even though these days they're more intuitive than ever, easier than before, but heck, I even have problems with stuff.
I know, I do too. From time to time, it's like, okay, that's a new thing. Do I really want to learn that? I'll go.
Thank God for
later.
the IT. Do you have an IT person at the office?
Yeah, we do. Not at the office, but I mean, like on speed dial. You know.
They're invaluable.
Yes.
And obviously, we have to have one here at the station. We have so many people. But yeah, that's just a tough thing.
Knowing that you can pick up the phone and call and say, we're having trouble with our server or whatever it is. And so,
yeah, exactly.
But I mean, that's a good point. Answering machine, answering the phone, answering the door. You know, and that's one of the things that we talk about also from time to time with our clients and our families is that answering the door. I mean, there are people out there that know that there are elderly people that are living by themselves. Knock, knock, knock. You know, ma'am, I'm here to collect for the gutters that I cleaned last week. Oh. That kind of thing.
And then they say,
stuff like that happens.
And they think that they just forgot and they write them a check.
They write them a check. It's like, you know, and then if they protest, you know, then the person kind of gets belligerent. You know, I mean, they're, as you said, they're very good at it.
And you can manipulate. They know exactly how to play them. Right. There was a horrible story a couple weeks ago out of Murfreesboro where an 80-year-old woman was sexually assaulted in her garage by someone. This was a serial rapist that they ended up catching in Jackson, Tennessee. Did it to 2 other women. But I mean, what I don't want to have happen is you almost have the 2 scales here. You've got the seniors that are very just trusting and go that route, and then you have the other side, the seniors that are afraid of their own shadow.
Yeah.
And both of them are bad.
Yeah.
Now, if I had my druthers, I'd rather have the one that just maybe is oblivious and is too trusting. Because some of the seniors that are so afraid, they watch the news, and I understand why they're afraid to go outside. And it shouldn't be that way.
And see, they wind up getting tormented, they're paranoid and all of that. And it's like, you know,
trust no one.
Yeah, and then life's not good for them. You know, and unfortunately, you know, you have the ones that are very trusting then become vulnerable. Yeah. You know, and then they find out maybe to their detriment.
Yeah. Have any laws changed, or do you anticipate anything that's changed with regard to wills, be it power of attorney, anything in that realm that affects elderly folks changing, legally speaking? You know, caps on costs of things, what it takes to have a legal will and how to do it yourself?
Nothing like that. I mean, that's something that doesn't change.
It's been around forever.
Yeah,
doesn't change.
You know, that doesn't change very often.
What makes a legal will?
Okay, a legal will is that, you know, you have to have what's called testamentary capacity. In other words, you have to want to make a will. Okay. You have to know what your property is. You have to want to say, okay, I know I'm going to be dead someday, and I want to leave something to somebody. So that's like testamentary capacity. Okay. Okay. And then second is that you have to create a document, you know, that reflects what those wishes are. All right. Okay. You know, you've heard me say before is Altima, right?
Altima on a napkin.
On a napkin.
That's good enough.
You know, it was in the testators. The testator is the person that made the will. Is what that person is called. It was in his own handwriting.
You have to confirm that it's in the handwriting.
Right. And so somebody said, "Yep, that's Joe's handwriting," and then you bring in a couple of witnesses that say, yeah, that's Joe's handwriting, so they can identify and prove, you know, that was Joe's handwriting. And it like, yeah, that's a testamentary instrument, which means
but that's 8 letters.
What's
Altima.
That? That's like okay. You know, but you think about that is that does it evidence that testamentary intent? Yeah. I mean, it kind of does, and that's what the judge decided is that, yeah, that's a will.
Okay. So.
Now, we don't recommend, that you do something that informally, but there are all sorts of interesting things about wills that, I could talk about. Like, there's like the deathbed will or whatever it is, that if you let's say, and these are things like came up, like if you're on the battlefield and you're a soldier and it's like, okay, I'm dying, it's like, oh, I want to leave my Honda to my my niece, and and I mean those sorts of things when you're on your deathbed. Those are, I think they call them non-cupitive will or something like that, some kind of Latin thing like that, which basically means typically a verbal utterance is not a will.
Okay.
Unless it's made in contemplation of death.
All right.
So people actually will, and then the person that that hears this, it kind of has to write it down. Like
gotcha.
Kind of temper, so what did you say again, Joe? That sort of thing. I mean, did you say to me or to your to my sister? I mean, that's the sort of thing.
Yeah, that's tricky.
That is tricky.
Now, the thing about putting do not resuscitate, things like that, orders like that. Now, I had a friend whose mother recently passed away, and she was talking about how near the end, and she had bad Alzheimer's, she had stopped eating. Now, she had a do not resuscitate, which means they did not or could not give her an IV to help, fortify her body. But that they did kind of, I don't know if it was forced, but force feed to some degree. Giving
they
food,
probably,
or kind of trying to really feed her.
Yeah, they were probably trying to see whether she would take food or would she, or would
I don't think they were jamming it down her throat.
Or would she spit it out?
Yeah.
Because there's, that's controversial because resuscitation is, I mean, just food and water, is typically is nourishment.
Yes.
Now, the body eventually, at some point, when all of us, when we pass away, we will eventually, if we get to that point, we will reject nourishment. The body goes, this is not helping me anymore.
Right.
For those of us who get into that situation, but for people that just don't want to eat, that's kind of different. But if they will. And I think that sounds like what the doctors were trying to do.
Forgot how to eat. At some point, you get to that point where it's that bad. But it just was uncomfortable.
Exactly.
My friend was saying it was not nice to see, and I wish they hadn't. She was going downhill anyway.
That's very difficult to see.
Let's just let this go.
That's very hard to do. That's very hard to see because, I mean, in this culture and like many cultures, is food and nourishment, is food and water is basic. It's how one demonstrates affection and support, and comfort to somebody who's dying.
Right.
And then for the body to reject that, can be very difficult for the person.
That's the end of the road, isn't it?
For the person is trying to be
just watching that.
To watching that. Yeah. Especially if it's a loved one, it's like, mom is starving herself. It's like, no, mom doesn't want this anymore.
Right.
Her body says she can't have this anymore.
Yep.
She will pass in a.
Eventually, without that, the body
soon.
will not be able to sustain itself anymore.
Well, even then, usually it's like something else. People
on.
Don't starve to death.
Right. The heart will stop.
Yes.
The heart will just stop. Something along those lines.
Something along those lines.
Well, I was just wondering, because the main thing, I think many of us, probably, I'm like this. When that time comes, I don't want to suffer.
Right.
And I don't want to be kept alive as a vegetable.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so part of that then becomes have conversations with your loved ones, like you and your wife, your children, so that they will know what to do and have those conversations regularly. I often say, "Is that a great holiday conversation?"
Just crack me up. When is that ever a good conversation to have? It's just no one wants to do that.
Right after the Thanksgiving or Christmas meal, says, "Oh, let's have the death."
But the sad fact is, that's probably one of the few times of the year everyone's together where you can work it out. But it's that's festive conversation.
Yeah. Now here's something. Here, let me. I don't know. We don't have much time. I'm sure.
A couple minutes. Go ahead.
But there was something in the. I saw in the news last week about the guy that had "Do Not Resuscitate" tattooed on his chest.
Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do not resuscitate. Yeah, and he had a heart condition.
I read the letter in the New England Journal of Medicine. You can read it online where the physicians, they're doing that. They encountered that situation. And that would be a great conversation starter.
What do you mean encountered it? They saw that and they didn't resuscitate him, right?
They were going, okay, what should we do? And then so they were trying to think about. So they introduced some measures. and then they realized later, and that's why I encourage people to go look for it on the New England Journal of Medicine website, where they wrote in and said, we saw that and we started measures to resuscitate anyway, and then they said later in the end of the letter, they said, in retrospect, we feel like maybe we should not have taken those measures.
Why would they do that when it said do not resuscitate?
Because they were not sure about, well, what does that really mean?
If that was legit.
Was that really an utterance that this person made, or what is it, was it ambiguous? Was it ambiguous? And remember, you only got one shot at it.
Yeah, that's right. And so you better
so you're going to err on the side of caution if you're a physician.
Yeah, so you have to do more than tattooing it on your chest.
Right.
Maybe just make sure other people know.
And that's what I'm thinking is that might be a good dinner time conversation, particularly those of our many viewers here who probably tattoo themselves.
Are you recommending a tattoo like
that?
No,
Maybe
that's more detailed, perhaps.
Well,
more detailed. Do not resuscitate. This is not ambiguous. I put thought in it. It's not would cover much of your tummy and chest.
I would probably have call my wife with her cell phone number.
And put the phone number on. Now that might be a fun conversation.
Here's my healthcare agent. Yeah.
Tim, it is always good having you on. Thank you for this. Listen, do have a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, and all of this. And you and I will be getting together in the new year.
Yeah.
We'll see you, of course, on this, and of course, you got the show.
Absolutely. We watch on Friday mornings at 9.
Friday mornings, and I was also going to say, retirement report as well is something that woman could call if she wanted to get more information on what to do with the investments, and if that's unusual that they revisit her mom's fund.
That would be a great call for. What's his name?
Why are we spacing? Retirement report, Mary Elena?
Yeah, I know him.
Hank,
yeah, absolutely. Call Hank. Call Hank.
He's awesome. How can you forget Hank? He has no hair.
Yes.
He's sharp.
Yes, he is.
That guy knows his stuff.
Yeah, so call Hank, Gwen, if you're still watching.
Tim, thanks again.
You're welcome.
Merry Christmas, my friend. I'll be back
everybody.
with his contact information right after this.